Many people don't prioritize themselves. Why is it so hard for us to put ourselves first? Brain is always trying to keep you safe, and so it's going to talk you into doing the easy thing or the thing that's not going to put you out there or expose you or make you vulnerable. But then what happens over time is that people begin to realize they get into a place where that doesn't work anymore, and then they start suffering, depleting their energy, and they're tired and they're restless and they're resentful because they haven't been putting themselves first. It doesn't have to be big. Take 10 minutes out of the day and just be with yourself. Meditate, walk in nature, do a workout. Your body's getting the message that you value it. If you can feel one side of an emotion, you can feel the other side of the emotion. And that's big because so many people are like, oh, I'm so depressed, I can't feel happy. Well, if you can feel depressed, you can definitely feel happy. I always tell my clients to use a doctor as a consultant. You can take their advice, but ultimately you're the authority over your own body. Many people don't even know that about themselves. They don't realize that they are energy living in a body.
If energy's neither created or destroyed, and our soul, our bodies are energy, what happens to our soul when the body passes away? Allison Pelot, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Miami. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here. Miami's great. I love it.
You made the trip from Portland. That's how committed she is to educating us today. Thanks for making the trip. Just met your husband, Liam. Awesome. He's working out in my gym actually right now.
Right.
You were on the show actually June of 2022.
Yeah.
So we were going to have another incredible conversation. On that initial conversation, we spoke about your book, Finally Thriving. If you're watching on YouTube, this is the book right here. You could go get it. We'll talk more about the book. And this conversation is so important. We were just talking offline about how people are just, before they even start, they have these excuses, these thinking thoughts why they shouldn't get started. And I'd love to start there. You know, one of the things I see all the time is there's an opportunity to invest in yourself, invest in your health, invest in whatever it is. And most people don't take that first step. And there's some lack of value in themselves, some lack in belief why they can't do it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you coach people through that and how important is it to have that belief in yourself and value yourself that you're worthy of those changes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's the question of the year, isn't it?
It sure is.
So yeah, first of all, thank you again for having me here. This is a pleasure and an honor to be back on your show again, because last time that was such an incredible show. And I mean, it was a great conversation. So yeah, what I found is, yes, many people don't prioritize themselves. And I thought, why is that? Like, I had this question, why is it so hard for us to put ourselves first and just take care of ourselves, and then everything else falls into place, and we don't have to, run into depletion because we're not filling our own cups and we're trying to fill everybody else's and take care of everybody else. But for some reason, many people still fall into that, and they just don't value time with themselves or investing money even in themselves either, like for self-growth or learning how to do fitness and food and those kind of things. So one thing I do know is that the brain is always trying to keep you safe, and so it's going to talk you into doing the easy thing or the thing that's not going to put you out there or expose you or make you vulnerable. So you're always going to listen to that, right, and say, okay, well, I don't have to do this. I can just kind of keep doing what I'm doing. It's working okay. But then what happens over time is that people begin to realize they get into a place where that doesn't work anymore, and then they start suffering, and then they start depleting their energy, and they're tired and they're restless and they're resentful because they haven't been putting themselves first for some time, if ever, in their life as an adult, right? I mean, it can be, I've been a parent, I've been a coach, and we're notorious, both parents and coaches are notorious for putting everybody else in front of them. And so I've lived this. I know through experience that, it's fulfilling to help people. It's fulfilling to be of service for other people. But you're not going to be of great service to someone else. You're not going to be the best parent until you can actually learn how to prioritize and take care of yourself first. So that just means spending time getting to know yourself better, just taking even like 10 minutes out of the day. This is what I tell all my students. Just taking, it doesn't have to be big. Take 10 minutes out of the day and just be with yourself. Meditate, walk in nature. You can take a 30-minute walk. You can do a workout. But what you're doing is you're sending yourself a message that you value yourself. Your body's getting the message that you value it and that you want to spend time with it. It's the same with your kids. It's the same with your clients. You're also sending that message back to yourself. And so when you can do that, that really, and we'll probably get into talking about this too, but it really transforms the energy because we're all energetic beings. We're not just physical. I've talked about in my book how there's this bridge we're gapping. We're trying to bring together here between the physical and the energetic. We have a subtle energetic body, and that is what is going to really be helpful to learn how to navigate as you go through this process, because otherwise we're just going to fall into old patterns of not really taking care of ourselves because we don't feel worth that kind of attention and time in our lives. I say wherever you pay your attention to most and spend your time is what is going to flourish.
Ain't that the truth? It's a universal law. What you feed energy to expands. So if you're feeding energy into all the things you hate to do, or feeding your thoughts all the things you hate about yourself, you're just going to get more of that.
It just amplifies it.
Yeah. So you said something really easy to do, which is find time throughout the week, throughout each day. It could be as little as 10 minutes, maybe even less than that, where you're doing something you enjoy to do. It could be a hobby, it could be drawing, it could be meditation, walking, but you're giving yourself that time to connect to things you love to do, and you're showing to your body, to your soul, that it's worthy. You're worthy of that time. And then you expand from there. One of the things that really works well for me, at the beginning of the week, Sundays, I think about some big goals I want to accomplish during the week. And they're usually business goals, targets I want to hit. And I write down those top 3 things. And then I say to myself, these are the top 3 things I want to accomplish this week. And it doesn't have to be business. It's just my example. If I accomplish it, or when I accomplish it, it's a better language, then I'm going to reward myself, and I'm going to either go get a massage, or I'm going to purchase this. I have the thing at the end of the week that I will reward myself with. And the more I do this and complete those tasks and reward myself, the more confidence I personally have, the more I feel worthy of continuing to make these changes. So what do you think about that process?
Yeah, I love that, because we should celebrate ourselves. Definitely there needs to be some kind of a system in your life where you get the chance to celebrate yourself. You celebrate your accomplishments, your wins. And I believe I said this last time too, and I say it in my book, because otherwise you just don't know what you've done. And then when we don't know what we have done, then we always are having this feeling of not being enough, and we need more, more, more. We need to consume more. We need to do more. We need to be more, and it never ends unless you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to slow down because I've done all this stuff. I've actually accomplished a lot. So let me just sit with this. Let me celebrate it. Let me be with it and feel into that a little bit, because that's where we're going, right? We're going into the getting out of the thinking about our lives so much. We're in our heads so much. We've got so much information coming towards us constantly. It's about, okay, let's bring it down. Let's ground it into the body. Let's feel it in our heart and say, okay, what do I really feel, and what do I want to connect with, right? Because it's all about connection. That's what we're seeking, is connection. And so we've been trained, in prior years, and probably for most of our lives, that we need to seek connection outside of ourselves. And it's been working pretty well so far, but now, things have changed. A lot of energy, there's a lot of big energy shifts that have happened in the past 3 years. And so because of that, we've really not been able to connect that same way anymore. And that's what I think a lot of people are feeling on a mass scale, but they can't put their finger on it. But really, it's now we have the opportunity to now connect back in with our natural connection, which is within ourselves, that 0 point within ourselves, the point of pure presence. And when we can do that, then we can be with everything in our outside world. You don't even have to slow down. It's just really being present with it, right? Slowing down doesn't mean giving up or not doing anything, because you can still do something and be present and be with it, But we have in the past really just done things kind of unconsciously. And then we're wondering why our life hasn't been the way we want it, because all this stuff is not realized. We're not aware of all of this stuff energetically going on in the background, whether it's emotions that we're suppressing, or whether it's a belief we have or an old program that we have about our life. It keeps running in the background till we become aware of that. And so once we can become aware of it, then we have the choice to change it. And so that, I think, is part of the issue for people, is they don't even know they have a choice.
Yeah. That, you nailed it right there. That is so crucial. Awareness is key. Neville Goddard used to always say, we are only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. And that all of that ties to our environment. And this is the question I want to ask you, because my understanding is this: our environment determines our beliefs and our actions. Actually, it's a step behind that. So our environment determines our beliefs and our thoughts. Our thoughts determine our actions. Our actions determine our habits and results, and then essentially our destiny. But it goes right back to the environment, the input. You just said the input that we have, this paradigm, the subconscious mind, is a result of our entire life. Essentially, those first 7 years, it programs us, and then we're just running on autopilot. So how key is it? How important is it to become aware of your environment, which is the input that's causing those thoughts, causing those actions? How important is it to do an audit on that environment and make sure that environment is serving your future self, not the old way of thinking?
It's extremely important, and it's really everything, because otherwise, if you're not aware of those kinds of things like emotions that have been suppressed, that's what will drive the car, so to speak, in your life. And this can also be things that happened during our developmental stages, like from the ages of 0 to 7. That's when we basically we're like a tape recorder, if anybody remembers what that is.
Or a sponge.
Yeah, you're just recording everything without any judgment about what's happening, as if it's your truth. And so what happens is we have that truth as we come into adulthood, and we don't have any discernment over it, because it is kind of like a living library of our life. And then we don't ever think, well, gosh, as an adult, maybe I perceive that a certain way because I was that age.
I like the analogy of a tape recorder. It's so true.
Yeah.
You could be 40 years old, but you're doing the same things you learned when you were 5 years old. A lot of people, we were just talking about this before we hit record, a lot of people wait until the pain is strong enough for them to make a change. And I see this a lot in the health space specifically, right?
Yeah.
Their diabetes gets so bad that their doctor is saying, like, you're in risk of amputation, you're in risk of kidney failure. So the pain is so much, and now they make a change, versus like, actually, let me try to be proactive here. Let me prevent this from ever happening to me. What are some ways you coach your students and your clients on how to not wait for the pain to get that strong for you to be proactive instead of being reactive?
Yeah, that's a great question, because so many people kind of give their power away that way and don't realize that I mentioned choice earlier, and it is about choice, but I think that so many of us have really kind of fallen in. I've talked about learned helplessness. I think I talk about it in the book as well.
I see that so often. Once you understand what this means, you're going to notice it, because that RAS is going to see it. So share learned helplessness.
It's kind of a form of victimhood, if people are familiar with that concept. And basically it's a form of like you stop doing anything, and you just kind of give up, because this is what you've learned how to do. And there was actually a study that that was done years ago with rats, and the rats were, you know, they were given some opportunities to get out of this water, but they just gave up and drowned because they were under because they had been trained to not be able to help themselves. They have been trained to just give up. And so that for many of us, that can be something that we do because things just feel so overwhelming for us. You know, it's like life is overwhelming. It's too much for me to handle. I'm not powerful enough for this. So I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna not do anything or
Continue doing
continue
same
doing the
habits.
same things like numbing out or addictive behavior. And, you know, we all know those aren't good for us, but we do that. Like so many people do that. Why do they do that? Well, they do that because that's a form that people can dissociate themselves. You know, it's like, it's all about, it comes back to connection, Ben, like, as I was mentioning before, when we just can't bear to feel that feeling of not being connected because it's so painful. We have to disconnect, right? We have to detach.
Escape.
Yeah, because it's so painful. But the reality of it is that we're always connected. And so that's what my program and what I teach my students and my book as well is going to lead you back to your connection that you have within yourself. And, you know, this can be a spiritual connection. I mean, some people, if you want to bring it into religion, you can say it's a connection to God. You can say it's a connection to the universe, a connection to source. But I tend to think of it as this is your 0 point. This is where your home is. This is where your inner peace is. And you're coming back to that innate and that natural connection within yourself, even when things outside of you get chaotic and crazy. And this is the point where you feel the true power within you, that you can make those choices in your life to feel empowered in your life. Like you can do this. You don't have to feel like a victim. You don't have to just give up in a learned helplessness state because you've been through so much pain. And that's usually what creates learned helplessness is pain, either physical or emotional pain. And so, you know, pain is a part of life. We all go through pain. It's essential, you know, it's been essential for us to be able to feel the other side, right? If you can, one of my spiritual teachers, actually, Carrie Kay, mentioned this. This is actually really perfect for what we're talking about, is that if you can feel one side of an emotion, you can feel the other side of the emotion.
Yeah.
And that's big because so many people are like, oh, I'm so depressed, I can't feel happy. Or, you know, and it's like, well, if you can feel depressed, you can definitely feel happy. There's potential there, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, let's just see where we're at, and then let's find the potential within our limitations that we're placing upon ourselves.
Hey, I want to take a minute to share something with you as we take a break from the video you're watching. You know, one of the most common things I see to why people don't have enough energy levels, they have trouble building lean muscle mass, they have brain fog, fatigue, and they don't feel good is because of a deficiency in a hormone called testosterone. Now, testosterone is a very important hormone to have in a healthy amount for both men and for women. So how do you reclaim your vitality? How do you reclaim this very important fat burning and muscle building hormone? Well, you can do it with a powerful supplement called Upgraded Tea. It has been my go-to for naturally elevating testosterone levels. Upgraded Tea is from Upgraded Formulas, and it contains the highest quality of ingredients that have been proven scientifically to increase testosterone production. Now, as I mentioned, if you're a woman watching this, this is very important for you just as a man watching this right now. Upgraded Tea is a natural and safe way to boost testosterone levels. When you boost testosterone levels, it's going to increase your sex drive, vitality. It could help replace fatigue with all-day energy. It'll help you lose that stubborn belly fat. Testosterone is required for fat burning, so it'll help you with the last 5 to 10 pounds that you're looking to lose. It helps you be in a better mood, helps with your memory and focus. So here's the 3-step approach. Step 1, take 2 capsules of upgraded tea with water every morning. It does not break your fast. You can have it with food or without food. Step number 2, notice your energy levels and dominate your day with more confidence and more vitality. Step number 3, wake up the next day having better sleep and just keep doing what you're doing. As simple as that. So if you want to get your hands on upgraded formulas, upgraded tea, and any of their awesome products like their upgraded magnesium and their hair mineral analysis testing kit, head over to upgradedformulas.com. And if you use the coupon code ketosis at checkout, they're going to give you 15% off your entire order. That is upgradedformulas.com. Ketosis at checkout. We're going to drop that link down below. And let's get back to today's video. That's good. And that's another universal law, the law of polarity.
Yes.
Up, down, left, right, black, white, etc. Happy, sad. When I was depressed, I started to get into Bob Proctor's work, the gentleman on the picture there.
Oh, yeah.
And I learned about the law of polarity, and that made sense to me, right? If I'm so depressed, I have the ability to feel depression. That means I have the ability to feel happiness and joy.
Yeah.
That's really exciting to understand. Like, I hope everybody comprehends that. If you're going through a depression right now, like if you have that ability to feel that sadness, you have that ability to feel that happiness as well. It's so powerful. And the victim mindset is just so toxic. It puts people, takes their control away from them. It strips their power away from them. The obesity conversation, it's like just genetics. That's a victim mentality. It's not just genetics. Genetics play a role, but it's not the role. Like, you have control over that. There was a study that came out. I think it's called the New Hampshire SCAR study. Have you heard about this?
No, I don't think so.
So
Tell me about it.
This is exactly the learned helplessness, victimhood stuff that we're seeing prevalent more than ever right now, unfortunately. But they took these group of women and they say, hey, you're going to go to a job interview, and before you go to your interview, all of these women, what we're going to do to you, we're going to put these disfigurations on your face. We're going to put scars and different things that make you look ugly, essentially. Disfigurations, right? And then you're going to let us know if they judge you, if you're a victim of the way you look during the interview. So the way they set it up is they spent an hour in the makeup room, put all these disfigurations on them, showed them all the scars, what they looked like, and they saw that they're like a victim now, right? And then before they sent them into the interviews, they said, actually, there's a few more touch-ups we need to do. So they actually removed all the disfigurations, and they actually look normal. They didn't know that. The person interviewing them just thought they were a normal person. And all of them, when they asked them about the interview, were you discriminated? They all said, yes, they discriminated me because of my facial disfigurations. But none of them had any facial disfigurations because they were enabled to have the victim mindset. Isn't that wild?
That is wild. Yeah. So we identify, right? We identify with the pain that we have experienced. And so that's where I think, we get, to that place with learned helplessness. I love how you mentioned too, genetics, because I hear that all the time in my personal training practice. People are like, oh yeah, and there's fear behind that, right? There's fear behind, okay, my family member has this. I've been told it's in my family. It's genetic. So therefore I am predestined to get that. So therefore, why should I do anything? I'm already going to get this. So, that's another thing to think about. Or people get really afraid and they do everything they can to not end up there, right? So it's like there's a middle ground, right? There's a middle ground. They're saying, okay, is that really true? Just because someone says it, like all doctors are not correct. I mean, many doctors are wonderful, but I always tell my clients to use a doctor as a consultant, just like you would anything else.
That's good advice.
And so, when you look at it like that, you can take their advice with a grain of salt, but ultimately you're the authority over your own body. So when we can start to see it more like that, then we can start taking full responsibility for our health. And then that kind of flows into being able to take responsibility for your emotional health, for your happiness, your choices in your life. You stop blaming and shaming, and then you start moving into ownership. And so that's really what I'm wanting people to walk away with, is a sense of empowerment that way because they are owning their choices. They know, okay, this came from me and this is what I decided, whether it's wrong or good, or maybe you made a mistake, you're still owning it because it's, it came from you. And you're doing that from a place of being informed and knowing yourself. I think that is where so many people are not really getting to know themselves. We're just trying to like show up in the world and please and fit in and, all these things of belonging. And we're not realizing that that is actually inhibiting our growth greatly because we're just hiding so many parts of ourselves from other people. So again, we go back to connection, right? It's all about intimacy, and the intimacy that you can cultivate with yourself is going to flow into the intimacy you can cultivate with other people. So again, it's that bringing that connection back to yourself. And I call it intimacy, just like you can create intimacy for yourself by just having a wellness practice that you do every day where you just show yourself how important you are to you. Because I think people mistake, they think somebody's going to come into their life and they're going to take care of them better than they can take care of themselves. And this is not a selfish thing, because I have clients sometimes, wasn't that selfish to just think about myself? And I see how you can get that. I see how you can see it that way, but it's really not selfish because to me, selfishness is not taking responsibility for yourself. And so then you become a burden on other people. But when we can take full responsibility for ourselves, we take that burden off other people, and then we can actually wholeheartedly connect with each other because we're coming from a more authentic place. And there's trust, there's truth in that. And so we can get into that a little bit more too. But I think that so much of this, it's a rabbit hole, but so much of this it's all about connection. It's just, we just have, that connection has been severed for various reasons, but it's up to each individual to rekindle that connection with themselves.
You said a lot of key terms there, like responsibility. And responsibility is something that most people lack. I know that I did for the majority of my life, but I really believe the second you take full responsibility, and ownership was another word you use, is the second your life starts to change for the better. And a lot of people, I know Dr. Wayne Dyer, the way I learned the word responsibility, his definition is my favorite. He used to talk about it being your ability to respond to life. That is your responsibility. If you have a poor ability to respond to life, your results are going to be poor. Your health is going to be poor, your finances, your relationships. But when you take responsibility, it's one of those things like accountability. It's not easy in the beginning. At least it wasn't for me. And it's still not when I fully take responsibility. But then your life is so much easier at the end of the day versus trying to do the easy thing every day. It makes your life so much harder later on. So it's just so important to not play that blame game, to take ownership and to fill your cup up. Like that's where you started the conversation, like connect to that 0 point that we're all born with. Would you say we're all born at that 0 point?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And reconnect to that. And of course that could be God, it could be Jesus, it could be the universe, love, Mother Nature, but it's like focusing on yourself. And Jim Rohn used to always say that, like, you take care of you, I'll take care of me, so we could take care of everybody. Like that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's lost on us though, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I love what you said, Ben, because yes, responsibility is how we create the structure so that we can flow within that structure that we're creating. Because like you said, it's so much easier when you have responsibility for yourself because you're the one making the choices. And there can be, hopefully I can cuss on this podcast. It could be an oh shit moment, like, oh shit, I'm creating everything. Or it could be like, I'm creating this. Yes, So, and you may be going through both things. You may hit like, the oh shit moment, and then you may be like, wow, this is exciting. What am I going to create? So it's really, then you start to hold yourself accountable. And it's not in a way that we have necessarily been taught over the years and think, oh God, if I think a negative thought, I'm going to create all this negativity in my life, but it's more so just checking yourself, becoming aware of your thoughts, and are they conducive to what you're wanting to create in your life, and be honest with yourself about that, as well as emotional honesty. Like, how am I feeling right now? I think that's huge.
A lot of people, they're constantly thinking about what other people think of them when they start to prioritize themselves. Like, I was just having this conversation with my fiance the other day. We were walking my dog Ziggy, who's hanging out here. And when I ask friends to, let's say, go to a dinner or to be a part of an event I'm doing or whatever it is, and they set a boundary with me, meaning they say, I would love to, but I'm really focused on this, and I'm committed to this, and I want to make sure I prioritize this. I respect that so much when they set that boundary with me. And I think it's because I set those boundaries too. I prioritize me, and people who do that respect each other, versus if somebody said that to me and I was not prioritizing myself, I would have been offended. Like, how dare they? Like, come on, man, that's ridiculous, right?
Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, and I remember that. Yeah, I remember being triggered by people who wanted to set boundaries, and I took offense to it, right, at that time. And now I do, like you said, I do respect it very much when people can say what they need, because that's really what it comes down to. You're just communicating to someone what you need. You're not abandoning yourself, which is what most people do when they say yes to things they don't really want to do. So you're making someone else more important than you. Think about that. There's something really strange about that, right?
Yeah. What's the message you're giving your soul?
Yeah, and like, look, everybody else is more important than me.
Right. And that's something I still, it's something that I'm still working on personally.
Yeah.
One of my things for 2024 is to say no more.
Yeah.
Even if it's you too?
Yeah.
Even if it's an amazing opportunity. Like, even yesterday I had this, somebody invited me to this incredible event at the end of the month, and I'm like, this looks amazing. But there's a few things I already prioritized myself to, so I said no to it, right? And it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about what are they going to think about me, and that was short-lived, right? These are things conversations that we had, that you and I, we understand this, and we still, I wouldn't say struggle with it, but it still comes up.
Yes. I mean, it's so normal.
It's normal.
It's like you don't just reach a pinnacle where you never experience any of this anymore. But that's what's so interesting, is that I think people do think that it just ends at some point, but it's not that it ends completely. You're going to still have challenges. You're going to still have opportunities, but I see it as an opportunity to kind of flex that muscle, right? So
muscle, that's a key word. It's a muscle.
Yeah. The universe is like, okay, you want to start, taking charge and making choices of your, in your life, and you want to stand up for yourself. Let me give you a few situations where you can do that, and see how challenging this feels for you. And it's not necessarily a test, or it could be kind of like a rite of passage or initiation, or you could see it that way. But one of the same teacher I mentioned before, Carrie Kay, she had also mentioned this concept of the universe having its own algorithm, just like AI.
That's
and
cool.
I was like, oh, that makes total sense. There's a natural algorithm, because that's what AI is based off of, right? But they're different, because the universe's algorithm is going to send you more stuff you focus on, but it's going to send you stuff you want, that you're focusing on in the pursuit of self-growth, right? It's going to send you these opportunities that help you grow. AI, not so much, right? It's going to keep sending you more and more of what you're focusing on, what you're watching, what you're looking at. It doesn't have it's not trying to help you,
Correct.
know?
Yeah.
So that's the difference. So the universe does have an algorithm. When you start realizing the universe has an algorithm, then you're like, oh, so there's really nothing, there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just a matter of becoming more aware, or seeing my own blind spots in this whole thing. What am I not seeing? What am I hiding from myself? So just asking questions, and then seeing what comes through. And I talked about this before, like, and I've talked about it many times, we don't have to know everything. Whoever said we have to know everything? We have, and I've heard you say this, Ben, we have so much information, there's not enough wisdom, right?
Yeah.
So wisdom is lived experience. It's the information that we now integrate into our life and we experience it. So I think that's really what matters. So if you have the courage to take the information and integrate it, which is what we do in my program, then you get to have that for yourself. You know, that is your own way of doing, that is your own process. That is your own algorithm, right? In a way.
I love the idea about the universe having an algorithm. It makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And you're right, the information part, starving, we're drowning in information and starving for wisdom and truth. It is the truth. And information alone is not going to change your life. The problem that we have is too much information these days.
Yeah.
I've been saying if information changed our lives, then every librarian would be a multimillionaire with six-pack abs, right? It's not the case. But when you have a course like you have, right,
Yeah.
Which actually allows you to get the right information, integrate it, and get coaching and accountability, that will change your life.
Yes.
And that is a certainty right there. So I want to dive deep into your course. It's named after your book, Finally Thriving. It's a 12-week course, and I want you to share a little bit about why you built it out. I know there's different modules that focus on mind, body, and spirit. I'd love for you to share some nuggets from each of those parts, but why did you decide to create this course?
Yes, I decided to create the course because I had so much wonderful feedback about the book, and people were talking about wanting to, or actually I did have quite a few people start groups with the book, wanted to, start these like book clubs and stuff for the book, and go through this together. And I was like, wow, this is a wonderful idea. Why don't I just help people dive deeper into this? Because, I would love to also learn more myself about these deeper integrations. Because as you know, you wrote a book too, and you know that every time you put something creative out into the world, the universe is like, okay, you want to go deeper on this, don't you? Let's do this. And so you have this deeper level of integration. And so that's what I experienced too. And I thought, wow, let's do this together in a group. And I want to just help people, because like you said, we have so much information. People are inundated with it. Not enough applied wisdom.
Mm-mm.
So let me help people do that, because we know, first of all, we know all this stuff. We've been told all this stuff isn't new information, but people aren't doing it. So why don't I help people do it? And so that's one of the reasons I started the program, is because I wanted to help, and I also wanted to give people an opportunity to play and help them integrate it. So, because at the time I felt like, oh my God, we just went through so much. Our nervous systems are shot. We need to be able to feel safe again.
Because you wrote the book during COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was the biggest theme. The first round of the program I noticed where people were just needing to get back to that connection of feeling safe again. And some people never maybe felt that, and were realizing that during that time. But yeah, it's so important to start to feel that safety and security within yourself. And many of us, started out in the world didn't feel safe and secure. And that's all that base chakra, which is so important. And within the spirituality realm, if your audience knows about chakras, they're energy centers, and we have our lower chakra, which is our at the bottom of the spine. It's the base chakra, and that is where the safety and security generally lives. But people tend to discount it, because when you're in the spirituality world, they always focus on the higher chakras. But one of the most important chakras is the base chakra, because it's what grounds you into this physical reality. So if you don't have that developed, you're going to see things that are either, heightened sexuality. You'll have people who have addictions. You'll have people who, like with addictions, you numb out, you want to disassociate. You're going to have all those problems because you don't feel like you're in your body. Right? Your soul feels separate. But when we can ground into our lower chakras, which are actually one of the most important to be in this physical reality, we come back to that, and that's one of the things I learned from the Czech Institute was how to work with the chakras from a wellness perspective, because we want to make sure that those are clear and they're a pure channel for the energy to flow through. So that is one thing that I really witnessed the first round, was we were really developing and clearing those lower chakras, the sacral chakra too, because that's so important for creativity and for really being of value and self-worth in the world, right? It all comes from your second chakra. So those two are so developmental and really relate to what we've been talking about this whole time as it relates to self-worth. Like, that's why people they don't feel worthy of putting time and energy into themselves, because when they came into the world, they didn't feel that. They felt disconnected from that part of themselves. So, you can get there again through first, creating that safety and security within yourself. Like, you are that life raft you keep reaching for, right? It's you. But it's hard for people to understand that until they start to really spend time and really prioritize that time. And that's why, to answer your question also about the program, it's like, that's why I created this, because I wanted people to actually do it. I wanted them to actually spend time with themselves and give them a program that helped them follow through with that, with lots of fun. And I want it to be fun, because otherwise we're not going to do it if it's not fun, if it's not enjoyable, right? Now, are you going to probably go through some stuff maybe that needed to be pulled up and that you needed to see about yourself? That could be possible. For many people it is. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel with that, because on the other side of that, like we talked about before, is that opposite emotion. When you can feel this, you can feel this. If you can feel the lowest of lows, you can feel the highest of highs. But we really do want to bring it back into the center, and so we can feel into that center point, that neutral zone within ourselves. That way we can navigate our lives so much better.
Would you say that somebody who's really emotionally resilient, emotionally intelligent, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, they're even keel? Was that a fair thing to say?
I would say yes. Yeah. Because I think people, they really do want to manage their emotions, but really it's not that. We make it much harder than it is. Emotional intelligence is really, intelligence itself is not going to need you to do much, right? Because it's intelligent. That's what natural intelligence is. That's what nature is. Nature is a form of natural intelligence. So is your body. So emotional intelligence is the same way. You're just allowing the emotions to move. You don't need to do anything really, but feel it.
So instead of forcing, you're just allowing it to flow. This is flow versus force.
Exactly. And this is a great example. If people have the visual of the animal getting chased by a predator, and then right after they get away and they're in safety now, and then they shake. That's the animal shaking off that stress that we tend to hold in our bodies. We don't shake like that.
I was going to say, it would be pretty cool if we could do that.
Yeah.
Literally shake it off.
You could do it. But that's to give you an example of our nervous systems holding those emotions in. We hold it in our fascia, and then our body gets so tight and restricted that we're like, okay, we need to do these stretches to move our body, and that will. And it helps. It helps with moving the emotions, but really, sometimes it's just giving yourself the space to be with yourself and see what comes up.
In your course, what are a couple of ways that you teach to activate those lower chakras? I know you already mentioned several things throughout this conversation. Maybe you could add a couple more things that the audience could do that you teach in the course.
Well, some of the things that I teach is first we align the mind is the first step. We really learn how to train the mind so that we can quiet it and connect with our higher mind, which is the mind that you really don't have to think too much about, right? This is what connects you to your higher aspects. But we have to look at how we're thinking now and then just say, okay, what is my default state of mind? What am I thinking 90% of the time? How can I retrain myself, my neural pathways, to get out of that learned helplessness state or the negative feedback loop that I'm in and start to think more optimistically in an authentic way? And with the base chakra, it's all about feeling safe. If you can think about, sometimes we'll do within the course, I have, especially the first round, I did some inner child work with some of the students, and that really, sometimes we just need to heal parts of ourself from our childhood, and not necessarily bring up the trauma or anything like that, but just energetically heal it. So the way your subtle energy body works is different than your physical body. You don't actually have to hold, and your physical body is actually not meant to hold emotions and not let them move through and hold trauma and information. It's not meant for that, but it will do that for you, if you want it to. But really, the way we want to heal is through the energetic body. And so we can do that through many different energy healing modalities. And some of the things I do in my class through meditations, through just helping them work with their energy body. This is how I teach them to get back grounded into the root chakra again, because, and I don't know if I actually shared this last time, but I have a history of doing pranic healing. I used to do energy healing with people. It was an off-body modality. And so I'd do fitness training and I'd do the energy healing with people. And it seemed to be that it worked pretty good because, with energy healing, we're on the quantum field when we're doing the energy healing. So a lot of the things that we think of time and space in this reality are different in the quantum field. I'm sure you've talked about that on your show before.
Yeah,
I know you have.
This is actually harnessed with quantum energy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
after
we're
tell me about that later.
Yeah, after we're done, I want you to put your hands in there too and let me know what you feel. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so your body can generate that too,
Yeah.
right? And so we all have a subtle energetic body that really extends pretty far outside the body, same thing with your physical body. From what I've learned just this year, actually, is that your physical body is inside your soul. So your soul actually just radiates well past the body. But when we're in a physical body, we tend to think that we're limited to this space. Mm-hmm. But really, when you learn how to expand your energy body and work with the energy body through certain meditations, then we start to understand, oh my God, I'm more than just the body. The body is extremely important and it has a beautiful intelligence and technology that I can learn about and work with. But also, I've got this part of myself that I didn't even know about that is so expansive. And it's going to, this is my energy, right? And so many people don't even know that about themselves. They don't realize that they are energy living in a body. Mm-hmm. With the quantum field and energy work, you can easily clear chakras and bring in energy and re-energize the chakras through some of the meditations and the energy work that I share. Because a lot of what I share in my class is how to master your own energy, because that's really what we've been talking about here. We're talking about you taking responsibility for your energy. And that's one thing that people haven't learned to do until recently. I think more and more people are starting to learn how to do that. But when you walk into a room, you feel energy.
You do. When somebody's like looking at you, you feel their energy.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in tune with it.
Yeah.
So you would say our soul's energy.
I would say our soul, yeah, and your spirit is what I mentioned in the book. Listen to your spirit. Spirit would be more of your essence or more of your expression, kind of what soul expresses. So, but yeah, the soul is ultimately what we really want to connect with, because that's really who we are. All our experiences make up our soul, because our soul wants, is bringing in those experiences. But ultimately, if we can connect with our own soul, then that is the connection to the universe right there. I know that sounds so simple, but it's really true. And so, like we've been talking about, it's about experiencing that. And only you can experience that for yourself. No one can tell you what that's like. So that's why it's so important for each person to take that time for themselves to experience that, and to know that they're worth that experience, because that's what they're here to do.
I'm going to ask you a deep question.
Yes, please.
If energy's neither created or destroyed, it just is,
Mm-hmm.
and our soul, our bodies are energy, then what happens to our soul when the body passes away?
That's the question, right? That's the question. I know when I wrote the book, my dad had just passed away. So I had had a very interesting experience with death during that time. I don't know if I shared that whole story last time or not, but
You didn't, no.
Okay, so I'll share it then. So I did have to, my sister and I were in the room, and we had to decide whether we were going to pull the plug, because he had been diagnosed as being completely, I think it's called an agnostic brain injury, which means you're totally brain dead, right? But the funny thing is that I felt his soul there, and he was actually talking to me, and he was waiting for us, to say what we needed to say, and then help him pass.
I got goosebumps.
And I did too. And so even before that happened, like when he was in the ICU unit and they were trying to recover him, he came to me, his voice came to me. He's like, I want to go. And he was like really excited, had this visual in my head about him, like, dancing and excited, like, woo, like, yippee, I'm getting out of this body. And I was like, wow, is that me? Like, just thinking that to make myself feel better? Or is this true? And it's like, no, it's true. And it just brought me into a whole new perspective of what death is, because I experienced that. And then after that, I had many dreams, many lucid dreams with my father showing up and showing me all these different dimensional realities. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. So my experience, what I experienced was that after death is not the end. And what I've learned ever since is it definitely supports that. Now, can you prove that? Not so much. I mean, there are many people that come back from death. One of my students actually from the last class had a near-death experience. And it really does bring you back very quickly to what matters in your life, very quickly, because you do realize what is happening in a different way. We kind of get tied into this illusion that we are our bodies, and everything that we experience outside of us is truth. But have we really discovered our own truth, or really what we think about things aside from the experts? What do you really think about it? What do you really believe? What is your truth? What is your perspective? It matters. It matters. So you have to honor yourself that way. And us honoring ourselves honors our energy. And so I really do think that energy just keeps on going. It just transforms, because that is actually how the universe works. It's a natural law, right? And it just keeps transforming and transmuting into something else. And so when we realize that about ourselves, then we can understand, this is higher level here, okay? But I'm going to say this because I feel like I need to. the power lies when you realize that you are also an energy transmuter. So things don't always just happen to you. You can actually be the light, so to speak, that shines on everybody else to transform the energy around you. So that's powerful. When you know that you actually have the power to transmute energy, you learn how to be an energy alchemist in your life. And that's really powerful. But we have to have, everybody has to be on their own journey, and everybody's where they are. But I really do believe that in the next coming years, people are going to they already are starting to really wake up to the truth of their own energy and who they really are. But we're going to have more of that. And my hope is that people can, but we have to start. My hope is that people can start to take back choice in their own health again. And that's going to just take people saying, wait a minute, what do I think? What is my truth? What matters most to me right now? And that's where you can start setting boundaries in your life and honoring yourself truly. And that's really what we want to get to. Yes, it's about loving yourself. That's important. But how can you have feel the love for yourself when you're not loving yourself every day? Mm. So we have to make it a practice.
Energy. I love the conversation. I just love talking about this. We are all energy. Energy's everywhere. Thoughts are energy.
Yes.
That's why people, you mentioned we become these energy alchemists. I like that sort of terminology. We could think about somebody really intentionally, and then even if you haven't spoken to them in years, they'll call you all of a sudden, right? Like these are ways to do this, right? And that book, Power versus Force by David Hawkins, talks about this. Like your vibration creates different levels of resonance, and that goes out to different people. This energy field, ripples. Right? It ripples, exactly. Yeah. I don't know if you know this story, but Bob Proctor, I study him all the time, even though he's passed. And a few years ago, I was watching one of his lectures, and he was talking about what we're talking about, energy, and how thoughts are energy, and it's a very powerful energy, and you have the ability to create amazing things with your thoughts, or even destructive things. And he shared the story about being like in the 1970s, being on the road for like doing sales meetings, and looking, he was in the passenger seat in the car, but looking at the clouds and using his thoughts to make clouds disappear with the energy in his thoughts. And he said he thought clouds are energy, my thoughts are energy. If I focus really hard, I can make it disappear. And he was popping clouds. So I heard him share this, and I'm like, I got to try this.
Yeah.
So I was living in an apartment, and I go on my balcony at this time, and I chose a cloud, and I'm like focused on that cloud. I'm looking at it, and I'm just envisioning it. Envisioning it dissipating.
Yeah.
With really strong intention and will with my thoughts, and it disappeared.
Oh wow.
And I said, all right, maybe that was just a hoax. Let me do it again. So I chose another cloud, same thing, disappeared. And clouds just kept disappearing when I focused on them. So I ran into the room, and I tell my fiance, honey, I'm disappearing. I'm making clouds disappear. Come check this out.
That's funny. Oh my God.
But you know what? Give it a shot.
Hey, might as well. See, this is the thing. And I love that you mentioned that, because this is what we have to start doing. We have to start testing these things out, and just it's really, energy is really playful when you start to play with your own energy. Anything's possible because it's energy, right? I mean, right. It's really, I mean, you could do that with the weather, because your emotions, people don't realize that their emotions do dictate the weather. So in some ways, right? So emotions are powerful. So
people in Seattle are just all depressed, and that's what's causing the rain?
That probably perpetuates it. Other than the fact that, yes, it's a certain climate. But at the same time, if you think about, now, I don't know, this might be a little too much, but I mean, I think there is some, you should probably look this up and just see what you find. I'd like to know what you find. But I think that there is some, we have a connection with the earth, right? Of course. There's a frequency of the earth that we're connected to. And as the frequency of the earth goes up, the Schumann resonance, we actually adapt to it too. So initially, the frequency of the earth started just catapulting in 2020, and it just has been raising ever since. And so we initially were like, whoa, all kinds of things were happening in the world right at that time. And our bodies and our energy had to acclimate to that because we live on Earth and we need to be in frequency with it to be able to live here. We had a lot of people die, right? Not saying that's what it was from. I'm just saying, the frequency, we all have to be in alignment with that to be able to survive here. So I'm saying this because, we have lost the connection to Earth. So many people don't realize that connection. And the Schumann resonance kind of was a catalyst for our consciousness to rise. But now we are actually, now it's us and our energy is influencing the Earth. You see how it works? So now we're creating in a way the solar flares. We're creating in a way the Schumann resonance spikes because we are starting to, raise our consciousness, take our power back, our energy back, really, and take responsibility. Many people have been doing this. Mm-hmm. And so you'll start to see a shift in people who have been playing that old game of victimhood, that drama triangle, perpetrator, savior complex. We're seeing less of that, and then we're seeing more people who are like, no, I'm going to start doing my own thing and taking responsibility for my life. And I heard that, that was going to be happening. I'm starting to see that more and more, that we're having this less people in that victim mentality and more people taking responsibility. And as that happens, you're shifting your environment. So that's what we haven't really been able to witness before, is we've always been, oh my God, my environment is what makes me. Mm-hmm. And that's what shifts me. But now we're in a time where we're actually powerful. We've always been powerful, but we're shifting our environment. So that's why I say that it was interesting that you brought the clouds, and I think we have some effect on the mm-hmm. weather.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of what you just said.
So I hope that wasn't too out there for some people. I know your audience is pretty open to this stuff you talk about a lot in your show. But I just think, I'm just going to start mentioning this because, if we're talking about energy, then how is that any different?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So Allison has her course. Her book is called Finally Thriving. The course is a 12-week course called Finally Thriving as well.
Yes.
And we're going to put a link for both the book and the course down below. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast, we'll put that down below. If you're resonating with what Allison shared today and you want to learn more, go check out her work. As you can see, she's very passionate about this. She loves it. It's a very important time to understand this. And most importantly, not just understand it, but apply it.
Yeah.
I have a final question for you.
Okay.
Before I ask, is there anything else you want to add to what I just shared about the course and any other place you want them to go with social media?
Yeah, they can head over to Instagram. I'm really on Instagram and YouTube mostly. And then in my podcast, of course, Integrate Yourself. But yeah, the program is a 3-month course and coaching program. So they get a live coaching session with me every week.
Wow, every week?
Every week. Yeah, because I really wanted to, I really just wanted to be there for people and just help them every week and help them with the energy and the physical embodiment process.
That's great. Yeah. That's accountability.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really been wildly successful. I mean, I've had so much success. One thing I'm thinking about this next time around is I'm going to offer people a monthly membership after the class ends so that we can continue integrating.
Smart.
Because it seems to be there's more to do after the class. Like it's just kind of scratching the surface for people who are like, oh my God, I'm ready. And so they need extra support is what I'm finding. But yeah, that's really all I would add before your last question.
Yeah,
here.
we'll put
Yeah.
your social media and your podcast down below. I was a guest on your
Well,
podcast.
yeah, and finalythrivingprogram.com is where you'll find the program and all the information there, and they can also set up a free call with me if they need to too on that.
Awesome. We'll put that all down below.
Minerals, minerals, minerals. You hear a lot of people out there speaking about the benefits of taking minerals, and it is important because in this day and age, our crops, our fruits, and our vegetables, they are depleted of minerals. The crops we have today are very different than the crops we had 10, 20, 30 years ago. And if you're doing a low carbohydrate, keto, carnivore diet with fasting, this is especially important for you because what happens when you lower insulin on these diets and fasting, you're gonna shed a lot of extra water weight, body water weight, which is great. You're gonna feel lighter, look lighter, but the problem is that your kidneys kind of go through this diuresis process where it sheds minerals and electrolytes. So you've heard of the keto flu, you've heard of symptoms doing keto and fasting. People just don't feel good sometimes. This is the number one reason why. So my go-to for replenishing my electrolytes and my minerals, for enhancing my immune system, for gut support, for detoxification is Beam Minerals. I love Beam Minerals because it's simply a liquid I drink every day. It doesn't taste like anything, it tastes like water. And I know I'm replenishing those electrolytes and those minerals. As a matter of fact, it has fulvic and humic compounds, and these have over 70 trace minerals and really important electrolytes to replenish your body with. They have these incredible sprays that I take with me when I play basketball, when I'm on the go. If you have muscle cramps, you spray this directly. They're called the Instalight spray. There's also the capsules that I take with me when I travel, the Electro Boost capsules that I take with me to make sure when I'm traveling, I'm supporting the immune system and I'm staying hydrated and my minerals are being replenished. Check out Beam Minerals over at beamminerals.com. Use the coupon code Azadi, my last name, at checkout to get a nice discount. That is AZADI at checkout over at beamminerals.com.
Final question is about my favorite supplement in the world. This supplement is anti-inflammatory. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to ask. It is anti-aging. You talk about energy. It puts you in a great energetic state. Of course, it's vitamin G gratitude.
Yes.
So what are you grateful for today, Allison?
Oh, I am so grateful to be in Miami right now, Ben,
Yeah.
because in Portland, I just left an ice storm.
Oh.
So I'm so glad to be, just grateful to be in the, well, it was sunny yesterday, but it's wonderful temperature today. And I was in the ocean swimming this morning.
Nice.
It just was so nice. So I'm so grateful to be here with you too, Ben, and that I finally got to meet you in person, which is really amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you.
I'm grateful for you too, Allison. Thanks for making the trip. We're going to go get some good steaks now and continue our conversation.
That's fantastic.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please consider leaving it a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening from. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and check out all the notes for everything that we mentioned. Again, Allison, thanks for coming to the show.
Oh, thank you, Ben.